I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, and my parents had moved there to work at my mother's father's sausage plant. So I have a background in sausage making, German sausage making. My parents divorced, and my father moved back here to Vermont, where his family had been living since the middle of the last century. I went to art school.
Oh, I see.
I went to art school. I started as a painter, I started as a potter, became a sculptor, and I graduated with a master's in fine arts from Rutgers. And I showed in the mid and early 80s in New York, Europe, Chicago, and then just like we just had a big financial collapse, there was a big financial collapse at the end of the 80s, and the art world kind of went poof like a balloon. Manchester in the early 90s really didn't need another restaurant, just like it doesn't really need another restaurant now. But back then, ethnic was Italian, and there was no Mexican, no sushi, no Thai. So we decided that it looked like a good idea. It was very popular. I had had lots of experience in my college years. My mother actually lived in Mexico for 7 or 8 years, so I used to spend holidays in Mexico. And we opened up as an authentic regional Mexican cooking, which was probably 10 or 15 years ahead of its time. And we slowly morphed it, and it became Candelaros's Bar and Grill, Candelaros's Cantina. We were kind of looking around for how can we expand the line and the concept so that it would be more popular. When we started off making the barbecue sauce, it was actually for a distributor up in Canada, and they said, we'd like a barbecue sauce, but we'd like it without sort of that girly name of Candelaros and something that everybody can remember. And so just sort of off the cuff, we said, okay, we'll call it Gringo Jack's, and we'll send you 3 barbecue sauces, because we had also started the previous year having our own smoker here, and we smoke ribs, brisket, pork butt, and wings. So we have a whole barbecue section now on in the restaurant, hence why we sort of switched from Candelaros into kind of a more southwestern-y Gringo Jack's. So after we did that, then we were just about to start packaging our unique flour chips, and we decided, well, we'll put it into the Gringo Jack's line as opposed to the Candelaros line, which then meant we had to bring the salsas in. So now we had almost a schizophrenic two lines that were somewhat similar, even though we made new products in the Gringo Jack's line. And we started getting a lot more attention for Gringo Jack just from the brand name. And we were getting better pull even on, salsa to salsa. So eventually we said, let's throw our marbles all into this. We'll do a little creative destruction. People will think we've closed. People will think we've been sold. People will think lots of different things. And we'll get a little buzz, but we'll recreate ourselves as Gringo Jacks. Oaxaca is the land of 7 moles, and they're all based around basically around the chili that's used. So they're usually very often called the color of the chili. Mole poblano, which is the traditional one that everybody thinks of with chocolate, actually has the holy trinity of chilies in it. 3 different dried chilies, seeds and nuts, which were what was brought from the Mayans and Aztecs in a previous sauce called a pipan. And then you have other moles. You have amarillo, yellow, coloradito. There's one called manchamanteles, which is tablecloth stainer. And then there's verde, green, with all fresh chilies. And so I've only gotten to 4 or 5, and I can never remember all 6 while I'm trying to recite them. I'm not what you would call a chili head, but very often in most of my cooking you'll find some sort of chile in there. It might be just a mild ancho chili that you're adding nice earthy background flavor with. We just use that for our butternut squash and apple soup. You might want it a little bit more picante, or a little bit more like an accent with maybe some jalapenos. Or, you might really want that staccato of like a habanero. But I don't want it to be there burning on your lips, for hours on end. There are lots of people who love that and love that endorphin rush, but I like the flavors more of chilies than just the picante. Aside from just loving to eat, what's a great little, well, pizza probably. I love to have, we have pizza almost, like many people around here on Mondays, because it's the half price and the kids all love it. And, aside from that, I guess I'm a great carnivore, so I just love burgers. And so when I'm on the road, we're always hitting, the local burger chain, whatever that might be. My youngest son, Cody, was just in North Carolina, and they went to Steak and Shake, and loved the fact that they get so many different flavored milkshakes to go along with your burger. I love wild mushrooms, so I'd probably have a wild mushroom tacos as a kind of an appetizer. As I said, I'm a big carnivore, so probably a coffee chili rubbed ribeye steak with garlicky mashed potatoes, and I love green beans with a black bean sauce on it, so a little multicultural endeavor there. And then for dessert, probably either a flourless chocolate cake, could be anything chocolate, chocolate souffle with a little coffee ice cream. I met a chef in New York in the 80s who's gone on to become quite famous, who at one point was the chef at a restaurant called Gramercy Tavern. And he now has a group of restaurants called Kraft Witch, and Kraft Steak. And Tom, I used to love going to Tom's restaurants when I used to visit New York a lot. Now they're around the country, so you can see them in other places. Just a great respect for the product coming in and the craft of what you do. I'm a weather channel junkie because it affects business so much. I'm a business channel junkie, and I love good schmaltzy action guy films. You're looking for a broad, popular item that you do. You're looking for something that's, hopefully unique to you, and tells a little story about the restaurant and the food that you make. I think of restaurants and specials as being like, little short stories that are, and within all the categories you have, the food, the title, how you combine them, you're making up a little story that helps transport people not only through what they taste, but maybe a little mini vacation to somewhere that they're not.